The One Mind, Sudden Awakening and Realization. Purnamaitrayani Putra said, "The Buddha and I possess the true, absolute, and clean minds of complete enlightenment, which are the same and wholly perfect. But why, after so many transmigrations due to my delusions from the time without beginning, and after my present attainment of the saintly vehicle, am I still unable to realize the ultimate, whereas the world-honored one has eliminated all falseness and has realized absolute permanence? I beg to ask the Tathagata, what causes the delusion that screens living beings from their profound enlightenment and so subjects them to their present perdition?" The Buddha replied, "Although you have wiped out your troubles or klesha, traces of your defilement still remain. I will now put some worldly questions to you. Have you not heard of the madman Yajnadatta of Sravasti, who would look into a mirror and delight in seeing his eyebrows and eyes, but when one morning he failed to see them in his own head, thought himself bedeviled? Do you think there was any valid reason for such madness?" Purnamaitrayani Putra replied, "There was no valid reason." The Buddha said, "The absolute Bodhi is basically enlightened and absolute. When it is screened and wrongly called false, how can there be a real cause of this delusion? For if there is a real reason, how can it be called false? All this arises from wrong thinking, which develops into further wrong thinking. When one falseness is heaped on another, in spite of the teachings by Buddhas in countless former eons, you are still unable to avoid delusion. Its causes are also under delusion. But if you realize that it has none, falseness will have no support and will vanish. Since delusion was never created, what is there to destroy to realize Bodhi?" This is like a man who, when awake, relates what he saw in a dream. He may be ingenious, but what can he get from it? Still less can he benefit from a state which does not derive from any cause and does not really exist. Like Yajnadatta, who, without reason, took to fright at not seeing his own head. If he suddenly ceased to be crazy, his head would not come from elsewhere, and even if he was still mad, it was not really lost. Purnamaitrayani Putra, since this is the nature of falseness, where is its cause? If you will only cease to discriminate and to believe in the three illusions that there are the universe, karmic retribution, and the realm of living beings, the three conditions derived from killing, stealing, and carnality will come to an end. Without these conditions, the three causes will not arise, and, as with mad Yajnadatta, the mad nature of your own mind will come to an end, and when it does, that is enlightenment or Bodhi. Thus, your unexcelled, pure, and enlightened mind, which essentially pervades the Dharma realm, does not come from outside. How can it be realized by toilsome and profound practice and by achievement? This is like a man with a Sintamani pearl sewn in his coat, who forgets all about it, thinks he is really poor, and wanders about begging for food. Although he is poor, his pearl has never been lost. If a wise man suddenly tells him that it is in his coat, all his wishes will be answered, and he will become very rich. He will thus realize that his wonderful gem does not come from outside. Ananda then came forward, prostrated himself with his head at the feet of the Buddha, stood up, and asked, "The world-honored one now speaks of eliminating the three conditions of killing, stealing, and carnality to ensure that the three basic causes do not arise, and so to stop the upsurge of Yajnadatta's madness and realize Bodhi, which thus does not come from outside. This, without a shadow of a doubt, shows the causes and conditions. But why does the Tathagata throw them away completely? It is also due to causes and conditions that my mind has opened. World-honored one, I am not the only hearer or Shravaka who, though still needing study and learning, has so awakened, but others in this assembly, like Mahamoggalayana, Sariputra, Subhuti, etc., who followed the Brahmacharin, heard of the Buddha's teaching on causes and conditions, then awakened to the Dharma and achieved the state beyond transmigration. If you now say that Bodhi does not depend on causes and conditions, then the self-existent as preached by the heretics in Rajagriha such as Maskari, Gosaliputra, and others would be nirvana. Will you be so compassionate enough to enlighten my delusion and perplexity? The Buddha said, Ananda, in the case of Yajnadatta, if the so-called cause and condition of his madness had been wiped out, his own nature, which was not mad, would have revealed itself. And whatever you may rationalize about cause, condition, and self-existence does not go beyond this. Ananda, if Yajnadatta's head had basically been self-existent, it should always have been so, and could not have been otherwise. What then were the cause and condition that resulted in his taking fright and going mad? If his self-existent head became mad owing to cause and condition, why was it not lost? But when he took fright and went mad, why was it still there, unchanged? Thus, how could cause and condition affect his head? If his madness was self-existent, it should always have been there, but before he became mad, where was it hidden? If his madness was not self-existent, and there was nothing seriously wrong with his head, why did he go mad? If you realize that his fundamental head was intact, you will know that only his consciousness became mad, and will realize that to talk of cause, condition, and self-existence is frivolous. This is why I say that if the three conditions of killing, stealing, and carnality are eliminated, this is Bodhi mind. But the idea that Bodhi mind is created after the samsaric mind has been annihilated pertains to samsara. Even after the ideas of both creation and destruction have been abandoned, with no more thought of practice and realization, if the least belief in self-existence remains, this shows clearly that the death of the worldly has given birth to the self-existent mind, which also pertains to samsara with its implied opposite, self-existence. This is like the mixture and fusion of various worldly materials into a composite compound which implies its opposite, the uncompounded. But the Absolute, which is neither original nor unoriginal, neither mixed and united nor not mixed and not united, and neither apart nor not apart from union and separation, is above and beyond all sophistry. Bodhi and nirvana are still very far away and cannot be attained without eons of practice and experience. Even if you succeed in memorizing the 12 divisions of the Mahayana canon taught by all the Buddhas, and the profound and perfect doctrines countless as the Ganges sands, this will only increase sophistry. Although you speak of cause, condition, and self-existence as if you are very clear about them, and in spite of people calling you the first of those with a wide knowledge of the Dharma, with its beneficial influence for eons past, you have been unable to avoid the pit into which Matangi fell. Why have you waited to be rescued from it by my Surangama mantra, which caused the girl to extinguish the fire of lust completely, to realize the state of anagaman, and to enter the dense forest of zeal and devotion? As the river of love dried up, you were delivered from bondage. Therefore, Ananda, your memorizing and remembering the Tathagata's profound and wonderful teaching for successive eons cannot compare with one day's practice of the transcendental path, which has enabled you to avoid suffering from both love and hate. Matangi was a prostitute, but she gave up lust and desire with the aid of the mantra, thereby becoming a bhikshuni called self-nature in this assembly. Both she and Yasodhara, the mother of my elder son Rahula, awoke to sufferings caused by desire and love in their previous lives, and in a flash of thought practiced the transcendental way. One was freed from bonds, and the other received my prediction of her future enlightenment. Why do you still deceive yourself by clinging to what you see and hear?